The Galactic Council had seen many things in its 10,000 years of existence, but nothing quite prepared them for humanity's arrival, or more specifically, for Orla Chen and her cookies. It started on Station Kepler 442, a massive trading hub where 100 species converged to conduct business, exchange knowledge, and maintain the fragile peace that held the galaxy together. Orla ran a small human cafe on the lower commercial deck, a modest establishment that served coffee and pastries to the station's diverse population. Most aliens found human food tolerable at best, though the caffeine in coffee had become surprisingly popular among the Xyrilian merchants. Everything changed the day young Kryn wandered in. The Velcron cub was no more than 8 cycles old, his rust-colored fur matted and his large eyes dim with sadness. His mother had died in a shipping accident 3 months prior, and his father, Adam Core, worked 18-hour shifts in the station's engine core to pay off the family's mounting debts. Kryn spent his days alone, wandering the station's corridors while other cubs played with their families. Orla spotted him peering through her cafe window, his small claws gripping the frame, his sensitive nose twitching at the scents within. Velcrons were a proud warrior species, bipedal, covered in thick fur with elongated snouts and powerful builds. They were known across the galaxy for their fierce loyalty and their even fiercer temper. They were not known for their sweet tooth. "Come in, little one," Orla called out, her voice gentle. She'd been a teacher back on Earth before joining the colonial service, and she recognized loneliness in any species. Kryn hesitated, then entered, his tail tucked low. I have no credits," he mumbled in broken Standard Galactic. "That's all right," Orla smiled. "I just baked these. I need someone to tell me if they're any good." She placed a still-warm chocolate chip cookie on a plate before him. Kryn stared at it, confused. Velcrons ate meat, dense, protein-rich flesh that fueled their powerful bodies. This small brown disk made no sense to him, but he was hungry, and she was kind, so he took a small bite. The station's sensors would later record a micro-tremor at that exact moment, though whether it was the engines or Kryn's world shifting on its axis, no one could say. His eyes widened, his ears perked up, his tail began to wag with such force it knocked over a chair. What is this?" he breathed, his voice filled with wonder. "Cookies," Orla laughed. "Chocolate chip cookies." Kryn devoured the rest in seconds, crumbs falling into his fur. He looked up at her with something approaching religious devotion. "More?" he asked hopefully. From that day forward, Kryn came every afternoon. Orla would have fresh cookies waiting, and he would sit at the corner table carefully eating each one while telling her about his day in his improving standard. She learned about his mother, about his father's exhaustion, about the loneliness that gnawed at him. Then one day Kryn brought a friend, then 2 more. Within a week, Orla's cafe had become an unofficial den for Velcron cubs. They would press their noses against the window each afternoon, waiting for the magic moment when she emerged with fresh trays of cookies. Word spread through the Velcron community on the station, and then beyond. That's when Adam Core finally appeared. He was massive, even for a Velcron. Nearly 7 feet tall, with midnight black fur streaked with gray and scars that spoke of a violent past. He had been a warpack leader before his mate died, before debt and grief had broken something inside him. His reputation was fearsome. Other species gave him a wide berth. He entered the cafe with the controlled aggression of a predator, his eyes locked on Orla. "You are the human who feeds my son," he growled, his voice like grinding stone. Orla met his gaze calmly, wiping flour from her hands. "I am. Would you like a cookie?" The absurdity of the offer seemed to stun him. His ears flattened. "I do not need your charity, human." "It's not charity," Orla replied. "It's cookies. There's a difference." Adam Core's claws flexed. scoring marks into her counter. My son speaks of nothing else. He draws pictures of your cookies. He tells the other cubs that you are... He struggled with the word, nice. Is that a problem? Velcrons are warriors. We do not accept handouts from... He faltered, his fierce expression cracking. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. Why do you do this? Orla considered her answer carefully. Because Kryn was sad, and I could help. Because kindness doesn't cost much, but it's worth everything. Because... She smiled. Because everyone deserves cookies, Atom Core. Something shifted in the great Velcron's eyes. He stood there, this warrior who had commanded hundreds in battle, undone by a small human woman with flour in her hair. I cannot pay, he admitted, the words clearly painful. I didn't ask you to, Orla said softly. She placed a cookie in front of him. Try one, please. Atom Core stared at the offering as if it might explode. Then, with the hesitation of someone defusing a bomb, he picked it up and took a bite. His reaction was more controlled than his son's, but Orla saw it. The momentary closing of his eyes, the slight sag of his shoulders, the first moment of peace he'd probably felt in months. This is, he began. Good? Orla offered. Devastating, he finished. How can something so simple be so... human? She suggested with a grin. That was 3 months ago. Now, Orla's cafe had expanded twice. The waiting list for her cookies had grown to 200 names spanning 17 species. The Galactic Council had commissioned a report on the sociological impact of Terran-baked goods on Station Kepler 442. Economists were baffled by the sudden surge in station morale and productivity. Therapists reported a 30% drop in stress-related incidents. And Atom Core. He had become Orla's business partner and head of security, though he insisted on being paid in cookies. Kryn helped in the kitchen after school, his laughter echoing through the cafe as he learned to measure flour and crack eggs. On the day the Galactic News Network arrived to interview her about the cookie phenomenon, Orla simply shrugged. Humans have a saying, she told the bewildered reporters. We heal with food. We show love with food. We build community with food. I just baked cookies. They did the rest. Behind her, Atom Core nodded solemnly, carefully arranging fresh cookies on a tray. Kryn beamed at the cameras, his tail wagging, chocolate smeared on his snout. And across the station, 200 beings of 100 different species waited patiently for their names to be called, united by something as simple and profound as a human woman's kindness and a chocolate chip cookie. The galaxy, it turned out, was hungry for more than just food. It was hungry for humanity,